ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। In the first chapter of Prashnopanishad, the teacher, sage Pippalada, in response to a question that was raised by Kavandi, in the very first opening Brahmana, mentioned the term prana as the first of the pair, which is in its essential nature Prajapati only. This aspect of Prajapati, which we understood as the energy principle, pervades the creation at the cosmic level as an eater. Prana means eater. And now, in order to establish the very same prana as Prajapati and prana, the eater, at the individual level, jiva level, the discussion in this chapter and the next chapter will be taken up. That prana, which is none other than Prajapati, percolates the creation at the cosmic level and also at the individual level, is going to be established. The query in chapter 2 directly focuses on that unique feature of a jiva, namely sentiency. See, the rest of the Jagat contains only inert matter. So what differentiates a jiva from the rest of creation is the sentiency factor. Rightly, the student wants to understand the nature of this sentiency. That is the prana in the jiva. In response to this query of the next student, the teacher confirms that sentiency in the jiva is only an expression of the universal prana principle which was discussed in chapter 1. And in the individual also it expresses as pranavayu, or the life force, vital air as we call it in English. in the body, mind, and intellect, this prana is very essential, and that is what differentiates a living being from a inert matter, Rai. This chapter establishes that prana is the greatest expression of Prajapati at the Jiva level too. Chapter 3 will continue further to describe what exactly is the substratum from which this prana evolves or manifests. How does it actually manifest within the jiva will be the next part of the question. How is prana sustained will be the third part of the question. And finally, what happens when the body drops? What happens to this prana when the body is coming to an end? The physical gross body is coming to an end. What does this prana do? This discussion of prana is also found in other Upanishads like Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, etc. But we have to see how uniquely Prashna Upanishad takes up this query. Does it in a very unique, straightforward, what we call as knife and butter kind of example. Just directly goes and explains what is prana and how is prana. And profound meaning is there packed in very few mantras. So we'll have to go slowly and carefully to understand and unravel the mystery of prana within the jiva. Let's see how to do that. Let's go into the text. Next slide, please. The way chapter 2 and chapter 3 are organized, chapter 2 contains 13 brahmanas and chapter 3 contains 7 brahmanas. So in all 20 brahmanas will cover this point of prana. The chapter 2, the very first mantra is a question. How does prana express to sustain creation is the underlying message of that question. And what is this prana's greatest expression will be the subsequent question. And then the 5 elements, namely space to earth, space, air, fire, water, and earth, as speech, mind, eye, and ear are all expressions of prana alone, will become evident after the second brahmana. The details of how prana functions is established through brahmanas 3 and 4, where the fivefold variation of the mukhya prana is discussed and to explain how it enlivens the entire body, and therefore it becomes greatest. The Brahmana 5 to 13 is an eology of prana both at the cosmic level and at the individual level. These Brahmanas 5 to 13 is a little complicated, meaning it's not straightforward that you will understand the implied meaning. So that part of it, we'll have to do it very, very carefully. And with God's grace, I'm sure we will be able to unravel the mysteries of that section also. Let's pray to the Guru Parampara and Bhagwan to help us in that part of the journey. But it's not going to be easy. Let me warn you upfront. Because very subtly Upanishad talks, and you have to stretch your intellect and imagination to go there. But let us see, we have been guided by great masters. I'm sure we'll be able to do it. Let's have great faith in that. But you'll have to very carefully walk along with me as we unravel those Brahmanas. Chapter 3 starts with the question, where is this prana coming from? Meaning, how does it come to be? How does it enter into this body? And then how does it leave the body at the time of death? And what are its functions both inside the body and outside the body? Because we understand it's got something to do outside the body also. The teacher responds by first explaining about prana substratum, which is none other than Brahman only, because prana is Prajapati, Prajapati is Brahman. So, not surprising that he established is that prana is actually coming from Brahman. And when it enters the body, it arrogates some responsibilities to the fivefold pranas upangas. That arrogation is discussed in Brahmanas 3 and 4 of the chapter 3. In the fifth Brahmana of chapter 3, the first of the three upapranas are discussed: prana, apana, and samana. Those who have done Tattvabodha or rudimentary elementary texts of Vedanta will know exactly what it is, but we'll have to also see how Prashnopanishad addresses it. And then the Upaprana Vyana and Udana is taken up in the Brahmana 6 and 7 of chapter 3. And then the nature of prana and its upapranas at the cosmic level is taken up for discussion in Brahmanas 8 to 9. Two Brahmanas are devoted for that. And then prana at the time of dissolution of the gross body at the individual level is taken up, because that was the question by the student. That is taken up in the 10th Brahmana of chapter 3. And the glory of this knowledge of prana is taken up in the last two Brahmanas of chapter 3. I stand corrected. Totally there are about 25 Brahmanas covering prana, not 20 as I had initially said. So that is a bird's eye view. This picture will keep on coming in every session, so we'll know where we are and what more is to be covered. And we'll also confirm that what we wanted to gain, that knowledge has been gained by us as we progress. Okay, next slide, please. अत हैनं भार्गवो वैदर्भिः प्रप्रच्छ भगवन् कत्येव देवाः प्रजां विदारयन्ते कतरये तत्प्रकाशयन्ते कः पुनरेषां वरिष्ठ इति means end of the question. अत हैनं भार्गवो वैदर्भिः प्रप्रच्छ भगवन् कत्येव देवाः प्रजां विदारयन्ते कतरये तत्प्रकाशयन्ते कः पुनरेषां वरिष्ठ इति. Atah, atha means next, meaning one question has been completed, new section is beginning, therefore next. He, indeed, it really was a question. Enam, this one, Bhargavo Vaidarbhihi, a scion in the line of Bhrigu, born in Vidarbha kingdom, Papracha asked him, who is the sage, who is the teacher in this Prashnopanishad? Pippalada, sage Pippalada. Bhagavan, venerable one. Bhagavan means you are very close to being God. You are the God who is going to answer my query clearly so that I gain this knowledge. Bhagavan. Kati, how many? Eva Devaha. These divine beings or deities as we call them. Prajam, creatures. Vidarayante, sustain. Katara, which among them? Etat prakashayante, exhibit this glory of sustenance. Kaha punaresham, which again amongst them, Varishta is the greatest. Iti means end quote. So he is putting an end to his question, saying this is only what I want to know. The literal translation is, next, a scion in the line of Bhrigu, born in Vidarbha region, asked him, who is sage Pippalada, sir, how many in fact are the deities that sustain a creature, sorry. Which among them exhibit this glory, which again is the chief or the greatest or the excellent amongst them? Very direct question. He wants to know what is it that makes a jiva a jiva and who is responsible for it. Next slide, please. So Bhargava of Vidarbha asked him, Venerable Sir, Bhagavan, how many divine beings with power are there? Vidharayante means sustain. Dharana means to support. Vidharayante is to sustain and support. Actually, Vidharayante has got a much broader meaning, and it also means to bear, like how you support and ensure that something is protected. We use the word bear. Hold means to hold it in place. Vidharayanti also means to contain it in a particular body or a location or space. Vidharayanti also means to restrain and suppress, basically to hold it together and to make sure that it doesn't go apart. So the created world of individuals, that means of beings which are born, prajaha, Prakarshena Jayante iti prajaha. We saw that in the first chapter. Jayante means born, Prakarshena means specially born. So those beings which are specially born, what is it that is actually holding them in place and what is it that is suppressing them to be just that jiva and not become everything else, not expand, basically. Bhagavan Shankaracharya in his Bhashyam adds Sharira Lakshanam, meaning this creature Prajaha now has in the form of a body which includes both the gross and subtle body. In Vedanta, we'll always have to remember that when they say Shariram, they mean all the three Shariram or at least the two, which is subtle and gross, which are perceivable. So the subtle and gross body is included here. So the question is, how is this Praja, which came to be born, is contained in this body? Or other way, how is the body getting attached to this Praja? Both ways, two-way equation. Etat prakashayante means exhibits this glory. Why is it a glory? That which is made up of inert matter, Rai, is held in place in a particular place, moves about as though it is sentient, as though it's got an inner power. So something must be energizing this, right? That itself is the glory of the Jiva. Which among these deities that you're going to list to me enables this Prakasha? Actually, Prakasha also has got a broader meaning in Sanskrit. Appearance or display or manifestation or the expansion or diffusion, all these terms are contained in one single word called Prakasha. So how does this Jiva appear to be, displays its Jivahood? How does it manifest itself in the first place? And how does it projects its presence and diffuses into the rest of the creation by its activities? All this is included in Etat Prakashayante. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya rightly in his Bhashya explains this term as an expression of one's glories or capabilities. Now, an inert body like Rai exhibiting sentiency, can the sentiency come from the body? No. It has to come from some other source. So this prana, which is the life force in the body, where is it coming from and which deity is responsible for it? And who is the deity who is providing that sentiency? question also explains to us the standpoint of the student. The student is noticing many things. He says there are many jivas. One jiva is different from another. Prajaha, he didn't say praja. And each jiva exhibits differently. So he believes that there are many deities supporting. A Christian jiva will be supported by Jesus. A Hindu jiva has got many gods and others to support them. So he wants to know which is that deity which is supporting all these jiva. What are those deities? Not just one. And then he says, who among these deities is the most excellent based on the expression of their capability in the jiva, basically. What aspect of a jiva is very, very significant so that we can call it a jiva. And varishta means excellent. There's nobody other than. Comes from the root of Sanskrit word vara. Vara means to actually uh, become one with it. Varishta means that with which one becomes extremely attached to. So who amongst them expresses this capability so very well, so that the capability and the deity are varishta, means they are attached to each other so very well. Very profound question. It's getting opened up as we see the meaning of the words, right? Let's go a little bit deeper into it now. Before we go into the question, we must know where are we before we ask a question, right? So you will notice that when in the Q&A session, depending upon each student's particular state of knowledge, the answer should be in response to it, right? So we have to now put this student in a proper perspective. So let's do a little bit more analysis before we understand the meaning of this mantra and the subsequent Brahmana which responds to it also. Next slide, please. See, along with Prashna Upanishad first chapter, we and the 6 students have traveled up to the beginning of chapter 2, correct? And so all the 6 disciples and all of us put together have understood 2 important aspects. What are they? That prana or energy principle has pervaded the entire created world of Prajapati. And this pervasion is by mixing with the Rai principle or Rai or matter principle. And depending upon the percentage of Rai and percentage of prana, sentient beings and inert objects are created. This much we gathered from chapter 1, correct? Nobody has any doubts on that, I'm assuming. And then we also recognize one unsaid observation. Something is holding this energy and matter together, both at the macroscopic level, because we saw discussions of sun, discussions of moon, which we know are actual existing entities. And we know it's a mixture of prana and rai, matter and energy, and they are held together by some magic, right? So that intellectual cognition has entered our brain also. Along with the 6 students, we also got it. Since more than one factor is required to hold these opposites together, they are exactly opposite. One is matter, another is prana, which is eater of matter. So it is almost like telling that if there is a lamb and a tiger together, what will be the result? One will get consumed, right? So, but something is holding them together in an equilibrium at various levels in this creation. And the student has got a very strong foundation on Saguna Brahma Upasana. Please remember that they were all Vedic scholars already. So, based upon the assumption that there is a Saguna Brahman which is the orchestrating the entire creation as per Vedas, that Saguna Brahman has got divine power that is also been stated in Vedas, which they believe and subscribe. So The question is, which of those deities which belong to Saguna Brahman is actually creating this jiva to function? And there is an inner expectation in the student that the answer will be such and such. Usually we do that. When we ask a question, we already have a conceived notion of what the answer should be. And you can see the surprise in our face when the teacher or the guru explains it such a different way, and then you get a few moments of paralysis, and then you recognize, yes, he is right and I was wrong. That is exactly what is going to happen to these 6 students as they get the responses. Next slide will become clear what was the expected answer. Let's see what it could be. Okay, next slide please. So how many divine beings with powers? And the student heart of heart is expecting Saguna Brahman with its 33 crore devatas has created the jiva. In Tamil, there is a phrase called Muppatti Moonu Kodi Devata, right? Muppatti Moonu means 33, Kodi means crore, Devatas. It's a phrase. They are not really, nobody has counted the devatas. Just to say, innumerable devatas are there who are helping Ishvara manage the creation. And Ishvara is none other than Saguna Brahman, because now he has got Maya as his Guna. So he is expecting the Guru to say, yes, there are 33 crore devatas who are helping Brahman to do this. Prajapati has got many, many divine assistants. That was what was the answer expected. And the second question, who bears created world of individual, all these beings which are born, and which among them enables this prakasha of all beings in this world? So the answer is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, which is all manifestation of Saguna Brahman. That much they understand. Create, sustain, and dissolve the beings and the Jagat. So he expected him to say Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu is the cause of all jivas. This is what will happen when we read Vedas, the Karma Kanda portion, and come to understand creation. And the third question, who among them divine is the best, greatest, and most excellent? Heart of heart, we always have a preference for our Ishta Devata. So, Ishvara, Saguna Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, or Brahmaji, or some other Devata I like, by chance my Guru says he's the greatest, I'll get an aha moment. Yes, I was right. Ganesh Bhagwan only created this entire world. That is why Atharva Shirsha is studied everywhere. We all know it. No, but Guruji is not like that. He is not going to satisfy our petty egos and petty understanding. Both will be shattered. Let's see how the response comes. Next slide, please. Tasmai sahovacha Akasho hava yesha devo vayuragnirapah Prithvi vangmanaschakshushotram cha te prakasha vivadanti vayametadbhanamavashtabhya vidarayamah. And you must add cha, means and. Tasmai sahovacha Akasho hava yesha devo vayuragnirapah Prithvi vangmanaschakshushotram cha te prakashaya vivadanti vayametadbhanamavashtabhya vidarayamah. We have to add, it's not in the Brahmana. Tasmai, to him, who has so asked this question to him, the one addressing the person who has asked the question, but meant for all of us. Saha, who is he? Sage Pippalada, who watcher, indeed said, Akashaha hava, space is in fact, Esha Devaha, that deity that you had asked for, which deity? Space is the deity. He is making statement. And then add included in that are Vayuhu, the air deity, Agnihi, the fire deity, Apaha, water deity, Prithvi, earth deity, and all these deities that are responsible for these five principles, elements of creation, which come from which aspect of Prajapati? You must remember immediately Rai. Otherwise, we'll get confused. And then he says Vak. Vak means speech. In anybody who is reading this Brahmana will get confused. So far, it was very clear. Deities are there. Prithvi, we can understand Devas. But suddenly, what is the connection between Vak and all these deities? Only when we understand the Brahmana properly, we will get to know what it means. Vak, speech, Manas, mind, Chakchuhu, eye, Shotram, ear, Te, they, Prakashaya Abhivadanti, speak by way of exhibiting their glory. Vayam, it is we who Vidharayamaha, hold together. Dharana is to support, but Vidharayamaha means we are holding it them together. Hold what together? The bodies. Etad Bhanam, this aggregate which we call as BMI, which contains of subtle element and gross elements in various combinations, we are the one who are holding them together. Otherwise, they will just fall apart. Avashtabhyaha, by holding it aloft, we are uplifting their capability and not allowing them to be disintegrate into dust. So basically, there is an ahankara factor in them, right? Already they have started telling we are the one who are supporting this entire BMI. To him, he said, space is in fact, and also air, fire, water, earth, and the organ of speech, mind, eye, ear, are the deities. Each of them exhibiting their glory, they say, unquestionably, it is we who hold together this body by not allowing it to disintegrate. This is the response from the Guru. Very clear, but unfortunately it did not contain any Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and our favorite Ganesha or Devi. None of them figured in this, right? So we'll have to go and see what is it this Guru is telling us. Next slide, please. So to him who has asked this query, Sage Pippalada said, the five elements that are the building block of both the Sukshma and Stula Sharira, which we already know from the texts like Tattvabodha and Atmabodha Prakarana Granthas, that both the Sukshma Sharira and Stula Sharira are just combination of the five elements, correct? So he says space is in fact the deity which is responsible for space. Now somebody has to go and refer to Tattvabodha and share in the group what are those deities for the various. Somebody can take that as an exercise and share it for those who are not aware. Since we are at Upanishadic level, I'm not going into detail, but each element and each organ has got a deity. So we have to put that list and share it with us. It's available plenty. I'm sure somebody can do that. So space along with air, fire, water and earth principles and their deities which are governing them are the one which form the building blocks of this Sukshma Sharira and Stula Sharira, and therefore they are the deities. So first the body is conceived and created. But in and through this body, something else is happening. What is it? The organs of speech representing all the organs of action are functioning through the body. So the first part is the gross material body. The second is the subtle inner body, which is Sukshma Sharira, comes into being here now, which is represented by speech and thereby all the organs of action. And then he says, mind, the inner instrument of both knowledge and action. Without the mind, the action will not take place. And the eye and ear is a unique combination of organs of knowledge, he has used two terms for that. Why not only put one? Because he wants to say it is through the eyes we get pratyaksha pramana. Pratyaksha pramana means direct perception. Anything that I have to see directly, I have to see it only through my eyes. The ears will get you secondary knowledge, which is called parokshanyana. So if I see something and I want to tell you about it, I'll have to use my speech and you will have to use your ears to gain that knowledge. It is not your direct knowledge, but it is somebody else's direct knowledge which is coming through their speech to your ears and you gain it. That is why he has used eye and ear separately. Because there are two kinds of knowledge which a BMI gains. One is directly perceiving something or directly gaining the knowledge. Another is indirectly through other sources we gain knowledge. So pratyaksha and paroksha requires two sense organs to be identified. That is why these two are used. And the mind automatically contains intellect, mind, ahankara, and memory. All that are packed into the mind. We don't have to differentiate that. And organ of speech is a placeholder for all the organs of action. They are not mentioned individually. The Upanishad is very, very cryptic there, but we have to take that. That is to say that the deity is presiding over all these organs and the building blocks of this entire BMI. They are the ones which are identifying themselves with the body and its organ and says, Abhivadanti Prakshaya. Speak by way of exhibiting their glory. They say, unquestionably, it is we who, like the pillars of the palace. This is what Bhagavan Shankaracharya uses in his Bhashya. Like the pillars of the palace, we hold together this entire structure without allowing it to be disintegrated. So each one of them claim that they have an important role to play. Etat bhanam. Bhanam means this is an aggregate of body and senses that is held in place. Avaslabhyaha, by holding it aloft, not allowing it to be disintegrated, not to be flowed over by the sense impulses and the external activities. They stand against whatever is happening and gain knowledge or perform actions, thereby enlivening this body. This is what all these elements are said. Now, if you notice that the gross body is coming from the tamasic aspect of the subtle elements after Panchikaranam. So we have covered that. And the subtle element, sattvic aspect, combined together forms the mind and individually forms the organs of knowledge. The sattvic aspect of the Panch Mahabhutas forms what is known as the individual organs of action. Okay. All five elements put together, sattvic aspect forms the mind, which is antakarana, right? And individually, their sattvic and rajasic aspect forms the respective jnanendriyas and karmendriyas. And the gross body is formed by the tamasic aspect of the Pancha Mahabhutas, known after Panchikarana. This much we already know. In this equation, one aspect is missing. That's the riddle for us for this week. Next week, we'll get the answer. Something is missing. You must find out from the Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas what is missing, not from an individual element. We know what is missing because this is Prashnopanishad. And already I've given an introduction about it. It's all about prana. So we can easily guess it is prana. But what is that aspect of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas that is missing in this equation is what we should think of. And that will come out in the very next Brahmana when we study it. But it's a good exercise to think about it and contemplate. Avaslabhyaha means We are holding this body, not allowing it to be disintegrated, is the claim of the sattva, rajas, and tamasic aspect of the Pancha Mahabhutas, which manifests as these various organs and body parts. Golakas, which is housing them, and the organs which are functioning through those embodiment. That much we have to understand at this point. Clear? Okay, next slide, please. The equipment of the body, why are they saying that without us this body cannot stand? We'll have to do a little bit of more analysis, and this chart will tell us how to do that analysis. The elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas, represents the material Rai principle of Prajapati. And what do they sustain? The gross body and the subtle body is sustained by this Pancha Mahabhutas. So if they are not there, we will not have a gross body at all, right? So that means subtle body cannot be housed. If subtle body cannot be housed, no experience is possible. So Devatas, how are they functioning? We'll have to understand what kind of a gross body they have. Then only we'll understand how they are functioning. But the fact is, if you do not have these five elements coming together in a combination, there can be no experience, no jiva, no individual possible. The organs of speech and other karmendriyas are equipment of the body, and through which karma or actions are sustained. Clear, right? And if you do not have these karmendriyas, let us say that I am unable to speak, lost all power of speech. That means my expression is constrained, correct? Movement will be constrained. Everything is impaired. And if all of them switch off, literally a person becomes a vegetable. He cannot do anything, he cannot express. One who is dumb and deaf, you can imagine how difficult it would be for him to communicate and others to communicate to him, right? What happens if the mind, which consists of intellect, memory, and ego, what is it sustained? That impulse to act and our own basic attitude towards life is contained in our mind. The plan for action is actually created in the intellect. And gaining the knowledge is a function of intellect. Retention of knowledge is aided by our memory. So if these are not there, there will be no agency for action. Nobody can claim I did it. No recollection that we did it. Those who are suffering from Alzheimer's know what tragedy it is to forget things, right? No discrimination, no feelings, no desires. So literally a person becomes Jada Bharata, as we call them, right? And what happens if the eyes and ears are not there? In order to gain objects, people, and experiences, we need this eyes and ears and other jnanendriyas. So no external knowledge is possible without organs of knowledge. So they are very justified in saying that without them, this body is not sustained. So very powerful case has been built by these organs to say that they are important. So Sage Pipalada has to come up along with the Upanishadic help